is your connection to India?
Well, my girlfriend primarily was born and raised for a number of years in India before moving over here, and I've been going out with her now for 4 years, and gotten to know her family and a wider Asian community in Belfast through her and her mum, and that is my connection. I've also travelled over to India a number of years back to attend the wedding of Krishna's cousin.
So how long ago was that?
That was 3 years ago.
3 years ago. And where all did you visit when you went to India?
We only visited Pune, which is where Krishna's family live primarily, and also we visited the bride-to-be's family in Kolhapur, which is a couple of hours drive outside Pune. It was a very interesting experience.
So what were some of your first experiences on arriving in India?
My first experience was arriving in with jet lag, because it's the longest flight I've ever been on, at 4 a.m, being greeted by a driver who's employed by the family, which is something that you certainly wouldn't experience in Northern Ireland unless you're in the top 1% of earners. And then sleeping on, or struggling to sleep on the very hard bed whilst all the traffic outside was tooting away, and it being very hot despite it being December. That is my first impression.
And what were some of your most memorable experiences then of the whole trip?
Had quite a few experiences. Primarily, well, perhaps not primarily, but something that really stands out in my memory is all the amazing food that we got to eat, and how a lot of parties revolved around food and hospitality. Obviously, meeting my girlfriend's family, and getting to see all the traditions surrounding Indian weddings, learning a bit about the local history, visiting quite a few tourist attractions, I would suppose, like Shivaji's fort.
So when you talked about some of your food experiences as well, what would you say was the most memorable out of those, and why?
I think really perhaps the first restaurant we went to was called the Great Punjab. I'd never really eaten authentic Indian tandoor, properly spiced food, and it really, well, it was very good indeed. But I've always been a fan of that sort of food, but I've never experienced how it should be. And all the food that was served at the wedding parties was just all delicious, and everyone was really enthusiastic about the food, whereas here in Northern Ireland, people aren't so excited about their food or so passionate about it.
Do you think that's changing though?
Oh, that's definitely changing. People's tastes are getting a bit more, I guess, upmarket, thanks to all the TV chefs.
Have you met many immigrant students within your line of work in your PhD?
Of course, I think, within university, it's a great opportunity to meet people from all over the world, and it's great for it. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy being in and around university, because you have that opportunity.
And how Or why do you think they've picked Belfast over any other place to study? Because there are so many options.
Why? That's a good question, I guess. School of Chemistry, I know where I studied. Certainly people come over here because it's world renowned. It's one of the best chemistry departments. I'm sure there are other departments in the university where the same applies. So obviously that's an appeal. I do know Queen sends a lot of its professors and does a lot of promotion, particularly in China. So I'm sure they're very proactive in trying to encourage Chinese students in particular to come over.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go back to India for a little bit. How did people in India interact with you?
On the whole, with great hospitality. I thought almost everyone I met, certainly, was very welcoming. Didn't speak to me like I was a stranger, treated me like part of the family, which was great. One part of the trip does stand out. In Kolhapur, I think I must have been one of those rare Europeans that passed through the place, because a number of people were filming me on their mobile phone. And I was certainly, whenever we visited the Hindu temple, I was certainly approached more readily by people begging than everyone else. It's probably the first time that I've ever felt like I've been kind of singled out because of my ethnicity. Which it made me feel like a celebrity though, which was it's great. But yeah, I didn't feel threatened at all. But it was an unusual experience. Whereas in Pune, it had a diverse enough population that no one really batted an eyelid.